Record, so go ahead, and this is your eyeline here.
Okay.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Corrine Moffat. I teach at Shaw Middle School, 7th grade students, and we did a lesson on issues that have impacted Nevada today through a Socratic seminar.
Let me see your... All right, so we want to understand the decisions you made in planning for this lesson and how it fits into the unit in here. How does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge? What was taught before the lesson and what will come after it?
The thoughts that definitely went behind the lesson was first, finding text that is complex enough for students to challenge students, but to still reference the topic that we were learning, which we were learning about Nevada history, but we really focused on things that have impacted throughout history, the Nevada that we're dealing with today. So the first step was definitely finding text, which was a process that I wanted students to understand the multiple issues on the multiple ideas or sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay. All right. Okay.
From the student.
All right. So I wanted multiple perspectives. So that was the first step, and which was kind of a long step, just the thought process that was going on behind looking at certain documents that would be appropriate for the students. And then from there, just thinking about how I want students to dissect and understand the articles, and then how I want students to discuss about the articles that they read. And there's obviously multiple ways that you can do that.
I'm going to have you're doing good. I'm going to have you put the paper in there.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
because it'll
Yeah,
ruffle
yeah, yeah,
into
yeah.
my... Okay, cool. Very good. So the next question is the text used in this lesson part of a sequence of texts designed to build skills and knowledge?
Yeah, not so much of I guess the sequence, the very first text was to reference a lot of the things that have gone in Nevada history. In order for students to actually understand the Nevada today, so it referenced a lot of the things that have impacted Nevada starting in the 1890s and 1880s. And I wanted to make sure that we've clearly understood the foundation of Nevada. The second document was more of a document that talked about the Nevada today, still kind of touching base on the history, so issues like the growth and the gambling that's going on in other areas. So it was kind of a building process as to the first documents referencing history, second documents kind of connecting the history from today. And the second two perspectives were just showing multiple sides. So kind of one was talking about Nevada as a sin state, and then the other one was talking about Nevada as going away from sin. So it just gives kids multiple options to understand the whole issue on.
Talk about the standards targeted in the lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard? The first is centering on the history standard, which was understanding Nevada through gambling and tourism. And then from there, thinking about what Common Core ideas and standards that I would like to incorporate to build skills and knowledge through this standard. So definitely was understanding of the text, annotation of it. How am I going to get kids to understand this text, all students at all levels? So that was definitely one of the standards that I really wanted to incorporate. The other one was, how do I get students to discuss about the issue, about using the text? And then how do I want students to reflect through writing after the discussion is done? So just thinking about the text, standards that reference text, discussion, and writing. Which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplifies and why?
Definitely the dissection of complex texts, and the task required students to use different strategies to understand the actual text. So I think the text was definitely one of the stronger components, along with discussing that. So this was a central lesson that allowed students to talk about the text that they had just understood. So I meant an opportunity for all students to be part of the discussion and all students to understand the text. So Socratic seminar, or where students can help each other understand the text. So I think that was one of the stronger components, was communication and just dissection of the text, I guess, finding evidence, pulling out ideas from the text.
We're interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being incorporated into your instruction. First question is, discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
I think it hits all of them. It hits at every single one. I think when I go through, there's not one that it really doesn't hit. And so I think that more of my lessons, I use my history standards, but I think about, in a way, the Common Core standards ahead of those history ones, thinking about ways that I can always have kids incorporate or read texts, analyze texts, talk about texts, write about texts. And so, I guess this one would hit all of them. So I think it just becomes, and the more that I've practiced and the more that I've used these, it becomes like the central question that I ask myself is, how can I use these standards to help kids build the skills? Because with history, we kind of do the shift from knowledge-based, where they regurgitate facts and they leave the class, and now I look at it as a way as what skills can I give the kids to be successful to the next level. And so I think just the critical skills that make you successful in high school and college and the real world. So.
Great. How did you teach the content of this lesson or text prior to the CCSS? What's the same and what's different?
Definitely kept some of the background that I'm used to teaching. The students need I wanted to provide the historical background on Nevada through different strategies. So that was definitely covered, which would be similar to the old style of teaching. And then from there was the annotation of the articles. We did it together as a class to help model for especially the struggling students and even the higher students, the different shift on how we dissect texts. Before they were used to finding answers, and now we're finding evidence. We're looking for the author's claims and ideas. We're going through essential vocabulary together. And I think in the middle school level, it's the modeling process that's the most important of that, modeling how it's done. And I think that we have them for 2 years, and I can definitely see the difference with the 8th graders after you've modeled the process a lot with the 7th graders. And then from there, I had the students individually come up with their own questions about the documents, ideas that they'd like to bring to the discussion. So just prepping them through writing. One of the things that students get nervous about is discussion. And so if they have these forms in front of them, they can kind of go to it to help them join in with the others. Having them through this dissect their understanding of the articles. So the next part is just helping them organize their ideas in a format that they can use to actually discuss their ideas in front of their peers. And then from that would be the whole reflection on what they gained from others. And I really focus on what discussion skills can you focus on for next time. So just not only asking about how they understood the content better, but maybe what skills, just making them think about what skills maybe they need to work on or what they gained from this whole lesson. So just that's kind of the process that the students went through.
Okay. How did you support all students in working with grade level text? Did you provide scaffolding for the students below grade level so they can read grade level?
Yes, but most of the students I have are not too low, but the thing that I had them do a lot more is just more of the annotation and then the modeling as the class. I've found that some of the lower students' reading is already starting to jump up through maps and stuff just through hearing how students find the answers through the text, seeing how we get it together as a class. And so more of it's just the modeling in front of those students, because I feel like the more that they hear the other students that maybe get it or they see the teacher, how they're dissecting it, they start to understand the text a lot more, but mainly through the annotation and writing side notes and questions. And then some of the students that even struggled still with the text were able to bring some of their questions to their peers to have their peers help them understand it. So nothing, I still want them to go through the document along with other students, because that's what they will be doing when they reach high school or college. They will still be receiving these same texts that other students are, but I want them to really see how it's done. And so I feel like the more that these students practice these skills, that they will be able to do it themselves.
How do you know the students were able to successfully respond to the text-dependent questions and tasks with precision?
Well, first off, through their discussion, some of the things that I'm noting is that I'm still working with 7th grade, which is a higher level, is their reasoning, their evidence, which really shows me they understand what they're talking about. They would pull a lot of evidence from the document, but the thing that we're working on as a class is actually explaining that evidence, building upon each other, disagreeing, which shows me that they're listening to others and they're using the text to help each other get through that, add on, build an actual discussion. The very first step, you notice that kids are just pulling from text and there's no true discussion. So I can tell that they start to understand the documents a lot better through the actual discussion they have. Are they explaining evidence? Are they building upon? Are they posing questions? And then after the discussion, it's a writing piece that I have them write down, where I can individually see, do they understand the content from their peers. So like I said, it's kind of a building process with 7th graders, especially because the very first discussion you have with them is just being comfortable discussing the text. And the second one, you really want to make sure that they start to develop that higher level of thinking of the text with that reasoning, connecting the things that they learn from the article to their main idea. So that is one thing that I'm taking note of to understand how the students are progressing through this and how well they understood the actual document.
Which behaviors from correction 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson?
Is this all students? Sorry, is this the one? Correction 3, all how am I engaging all students, or discussion? I think discussion is in that one.
Really
yeah.
Okay, so again, it's which behaviors from correction 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson, and what actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen? The thing that I think that this lesson did well is making sure all students are discussing the issue. You want to take it from the top?
Yeah, sorry.
Go for it.
Okay, the lesson really, I think, hit the providing opportunity for all students to speak. A couple of strategies we work on is maybe sticky notes on the corner of their desk to identify to other students when they've talked, and providing at least 2 opportunities for every student, whether just the opportunity for them to actually speak. So I think the idea that they're working together as a class to make sure that all students are discussing the issue. So that's what I think this lesson hit the most, would be the actual discussion among themselves. It's also student-centered, more of a discussion, so it gives them the opportunity to work through the text together. And occasionally I would jump in if I felt like they were in the different direction, or maybe kind of they were a little nervous at first. They always get nervous when they first discussing, but kind of reminding them things that they already know ahead. But most of this is helping each other all get through the text, and like I said, the sticky notes on the corner of their desks remind each other who's discussed about the issue, who might need to join in. So that kind of allows all students the opportunity to speak.
2 minutes before 8:20. You want to hit one more question?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Let's see here. So reflecting on the lesson, what worked particularly well, and what might you do differently?
Reflecting on the lesson, I really feel that the text, I think the text really hit the issue of what's under the text actually really, in their discussion among their peers, really helped them understand the issue a lot better. I felt like students really grew from each other discussing the text, really understood other ideas from that. And I think it kind of like I said, just helped students overall understanding the problems that Nevada, their state, their home state, is experiencing today through each other. And then one of the things that maybe I could have done different, that I could have had them stop class earlier. It's automatic.
Sorry.
So, okay.
Oh, okay. Do you mind taking it from the top? Or
Okay, yeah.
actually taking it from what you might do differently?
Okay. Maybe I had kind of heard some recommendations and maybe writing a couple notes towards the end of class. We ended up doing our reflection the next day, which a lot of students were kind of forgetting a couple things that maybe they heard from their students. So an idea that maybe is actually writing on their sticky notes, taking a few notes, reflecting on what their peers had said. So I just wanted to make sure, due to the short periods, that they actually had the period to discuss. And so I kind of saved the reflection for the next day. But maybe I would have the students take more notes on ideas that they gathered to really gain and remember what their peers had helped them understand. So I think that's one of the things I would do differently.
You're done.
All right. Thank you.